Hello and welcome to the Transgender Education Workshop. This workshop is usually done in person, but this is a virtual alternative for those who can't attend in-person sessions or people who just wish to gain a little bit of knowledge without actually attending the workshop. Some things that you're going to need for this workshop: first and foremost, you're going to need the Transgender Education Workshop packet. And in addition to that, you are also going to need the Terms You May Not Know packet, and that looks like this. The Transgender Education Workshop packet is structured for the in-person thing, as are all the other resources and activities, presentation resources, and links in the description. So they might be a little bit different because they are structured for the in-person thing, but they are still useful for this virtual alternative. So getting into who I am. My name is Aislinn Kent. I'm the creator of the Transgender Education Workshop. I have a bachelor's in social work, and I'm currently the intern at the Drop-In Center in Roanoke. I am a gay transgender man. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm originally from Northern Virginia. So starting off, we're going to go over some group norms. And again, these are slightly different than what are in the packet, as this is a digital space and there aren't any other physical people around me. But first, going over digital distractions. In the modern day, multitasking may seem like second nature to a lot of us. However, we ask that during this workshop, you put away your phone, close or minimize any additional tabs you may have open, and resist from partaking in any digital distractions. The best way to get the most out of this presentation and this workshop is to kind of hone in on the presentation and kind of limit distractions. Another group norm that is relevant to this virtual presentation is come as you are. A lot of this information may be new to you. There may be terminology and concepts that you have never heard of before. This is okay. We ask everyone to come as they are, acknowledge what you don't know, and recognize that this workshop is not the end of your learning journey. Learning is a lifelong process. So kind of keep those things in mind during this presentation. You try to limit those distractions so you can really get the most out of this presentation. And also, come as you are. There is no judgment whether you are coming to this video as a transgender person. You might know a lot of this content already, or you're coming as someone who is completely new to the LGBTQ plus community. Everybody is welcome, and just acknowledge where you are in your learning journey. So we're going to jump into some educational portions. Specifically, we're going to be talking right now about sex and gender, how they are different, and more details about each. So first, we're going to be starting off with sex. A lot of us are taught in school. I was taught this. I don't know if it's still taught in schools, that sex is a binary, that there's men and women. Men, have all of these characteristics, XY chromosomes, penis, testosterone, all of these things, and that women, have XX chromosomes, vaginas, estrogen, and all of those kinds of things. But in actuality, sex is a complex and diverse thing. It is made up of 5 main characteristics. So first, you have your primary sex characteristics. Now, this is your internal and external genitalia. Examples of this, penis, vagina, scrotum, uterus, all of those kinds of things. Those are your primary sex characteristics. Then there are your secondary sex characteristics. Now, these are sexual characteristics that are brought on by puberty. This is the development of breasts, the development of body hair, if your vocal cords, thicken and your voice drops. All of those things are secondary sex characteristics. Then you have your chromosomes, something that most people are familiar with. This is part of your DNA. Most people are taught, there's X and Y, so you can be XX or XY, but there are actually variations even at the chromosomal level. Some people are XXX, some people are XYY, some people can be XO, and these are all related to different intersex conditions, and we'll get into what intersex is in a little bit. So moving on from chromosomes, there are also your hormones. Most people think, okay, men have testosterone, women have estrogen. Actually, everyone has a variation of hormones in their body, and the differing levels are different for everyone. Not all people who are assigned male at birth, not all people with XY chromosomes have those high testosterone levels. The same for people assigned female at birth and XX chromosomes. Hormones, again, like all of these things, exist in variation. Then you have your gametes, and these are your reproductive cells. This is, ovum, eggs, or sperm, the things used to create life and babies. And some people don't have either. Some people are born infertile, all of those different things. So talking about sex and these 5 main characteristics, you would think, okay, all of this falls along a binary, but it doesn't. And so any kind of variation, any kind of difference in between is considered intersex. And there are lots of different intersex conditions. We're not going to go over all of them today. I definitely encourage you to do your own research. One example of an intersex condition is someone who is assigned female at birth. They are born, the doctor looks at them and says, okay, it's a girl. Maybe they have XX chromosomes and visibly their genitalia is what would be considered female in those circumstances. Someone who is born with a visible, vagina and labia. But this individual actually has undescended testicles inside of their body. That is one example of an intersex condition, and one example of how sex is not a binary. It exists along a spectrum based on all of these different 5 characteristics, which can mismatch and combine in any number of ways. So something that, it's good to talk about is a lot of people are like, okay, born female, or people are born female or born male. This is not necessarily true in these circumstances, not necessarily the right terminology to use. People aren't born male or female, or they're not biologically male or female, because the sense of being male or female or a variation thereupon is a sense of gender. It's an internal thing. It is not defined by your biology or your sexual characteristics. So there is no biological sex or biological gender. There is simply the sex assigned at birth. And so an abbreviation of sex assigned at birth is SAAB or SAAB. And then there are people who are assigned male at birth. Abbreviation for this is AMAB or AMAB. And then there are people who are assigned female at birth. This is AFAB or AFAB. In my situation as a transgender man, I was assigned female at birth, but nothing about my biology is female. I am a male through and through, and everything about my body is male. I was just assigned female at birth. So now we're going to move on to gender. First, we're going to start off with the term cisgender. And cisgender is what is considered the opposite of transgender. Trans is a prefix that means on the opposite side of or adjacent to. And so cis is a prefix meaning on the same side of. So where transgender is someone whose sense of gender is adjacent to or on the opposite side of their sex assigned at birth. Someone who is cisgender, their gender is on the same side. So, someone who is assigned male at birth and grows up and is like, you know what? Yes, I identify as male. I am a male person. Same for, a cisgender woman, someone who is assigned female at birth, grows up and is like, you know what? Yes, I am a woman. They, come to realize their gender. So that is cisgender. A lot of people have this notion or this idea that, okay, if you're not transgender, you're normal. And there doesn't need to be a word for you. There are normal people and then there are the other people. There are trans people. This is not the case. Just because something exists in the majority does not necessarily make it normal or something that is more valuable, something that is more strived to, and something that doesn't need description. In the same way that transgender simply describes a state of being, cisgender also simply describes a state of being. And you don't get to, not use that word or think that that word doesn't apply to you just because you want to view yourself as normal, because normal is a socially constructed concept. Moving on to transgender. By definition, transgender is anyone who does not identify as the gender they were assigned at birth or the sex that they were assigned at birth. So for this instance, transgender man, like me, I was assigned female at birth, but my gender is male. A transgender woman is someone who was assigned male at birth, but whose gender is female. And then you have non-binary. Non-binary people are people who do not strictly identify as male or female. And there are a myriad of non-binary identities, non-binary expressions. Again, we're not going to go over all of that during this presentation, but I definitely encourage you to check out some of the resources that are in the packets, some of the resource links that are in the description to learn more about the nuances of non-binary genders. But for this, you would say non-binary person, and there can also be non-binary men and women. Again, it is a deep and complex concept, and this is supposed to be more just a general introduction presentation. So to get more into that, definitely check out some of the links in the description. So transgender and non-binary both exist under the transgender umbrella because non-binary people fit the definition of transgender, someone who does not identify with the sex assigned at birth. So you have binary transgender identities, trans man and trans woman. Then you have some non-binary gender identities, gender queer, agender, gender fluid. Just to go into these briefly, gender queer is someone who's, whether that is their sense of gender, their gender presentation, a combination of the two, is outside of what is considered normal. And this can mean a myriad of different things. Sometimes it can be a combination of non-binary and binary transgender identities. Sometimes it is almost like a third gender. It's like, okay, I don't identify as a man or a woman in any capacity. You know, I am third gender, I'm outside of this. Then there is agender. These are people who don't have a gender or a gender identity. And then there's gender fluid. And these are people whose gender identity, sense of self kind of fluctuates. And this can be in any number of ways. So now we're going to get into a specific conversation about transgender topics and language. You know, when talking to and about transgender people, what are the right things to say? How should I refer to them? You know, how can I do this in a way that is most inclusive and the most respectful? And that's what we're going to be talking about right now. So starting off with birth name or dead name. So not all transgender people, but definitely I would say a large percentage change their name when they come out as transgender. You know, you have the name that you were assigned at birth. This is your birth name. Then you have your chosen name. Sometimes in these kinds of discussions, people view the birth name as someone's real name, and this is an incorrect assumption. The name that a person chooses for themselves is their real name, you know, whether or not they have the resources to legally change their name, whether or not, you know, that's reflected on paperwork, you know, all of these kinds of things. The name that someone wishes to be called is their real name, and then they have their birth name, which is something you shouldn't use to refer to someone because clearly they have chosen and have a name that is different. Another term used to describe someone's birth name is dead name. And again, these terms are in the Terms You May Not Know packet, and it goes into a little bit more detail. Something about, you know, someone's birth name or dead name. A lot of times people hear, oh, this person has, you know, had a different name when they were younger or had a different name before, or may have a different name legally, and they get curious. You know, human curiosity is an amazing thing. And so out of no ill intent, you know, people will often ask transgender people, oh, like, what did your name used to be? What's your birth name? What's your old name? And that is, you know, a perfectly fine thing to think. It's just normal human curiosity. However, it is not something you need to know and not necessarily something you need to ask. And I say not necessarily, but, you know, if a transgender person does not volunteer that information to you, you don't need to ask about it. Speaking on my own personal experience, you know, the reason I chose my name, Aislinn, is because I did not want my birth name associated with me. And obviously there are people who knew me before I changed my name who know what my birth name used to be. But when I'm meeting anyone new and they don't know that information, you know, I don't want that name associated with me in any capacity. You know, I don't want, even if someone's not going to refer to me by my birth name, I don't want it floating around in their head. I don't want anyone to ever look at me and think, oh yes, that is birth name, because that's not who I am. I am Aislinn. And so that's just kind of a little bit of explanation about, you know, interactions, birth names and dead names and things like that. Moving on, something else about, you know, gender and gender expression is pronouns. People, you know, have a right, and people have a preference of what pronouns they want to hear in reference to themselves. As you know, we're all very familiar with he, him, and she, her pronouns, but there are also singular they pronouns. These are not a new thing by any means. People use singular they in their everyday language and don't even realize it. You know, singular they was used in Shakespearean plays. This is not a new concept, but the way that it is being talked about in pop culture and, you know, in politics and things like that might make it seem like it is new, but it really isn't. An example of this, let's say, you know, you've signed up for a college course and you don't know who the professor is. You're talking to a fellow student. Oh, hey, do you know anything about the professor? You know, do you know if they're a hard grader? Do you know if they're really strict? You know, if they're fun? In that instance, you've used singular they to refer to a person of an unknown gender. And sometimes people, you know, who are non-binary, who are outside of binary gender experiences, prefer singular they as a gender neutral alternative. And then there are also neo-pronouns. For this presentation specifically, we're going to be using ze pronouns. And I'm going to be using all of these pronouns in sentences to kind of show you how they work. So he went to the store to get his prescription, and then he drove himself home. An example of he pronouns. Using she, her pronouns in the same sentence. She went to the store to get her prescription, and then she drove herself home. Perfectly fine. For they, them. They went to the store to get their prescription, and then they drove themselves home. There is a bit of debate about whether you should say themselves or themself. Grammar is not my area. You could ask the person who uses they, them pronouns which they prefer. Grammatically, I think you can use either, but again, that's not my area and it doesn't really matter. Just ask someone what their preference is. And then for the neo pronoun ze, Z went to the store to get their prescription, then Z drove herself home. So the thing with neo pronouns, people hear neopronouns and they're like, that is something I've never heard of before. And sometimes people's immediate reaction is, that sounds silly or fake or made up. It's important to note that all language is invented. All language was coined. All language was new at some point. Just because these pronouns are being coined and used and utilized now as opposed to in the past does not make them any less legitimate than the words we use today. Language is always evolving. And so some other examples, there's Zzier, Zzem, em. There again are resources about neopronouns in the packets, and I would really encourage you to look into those and learn more about, people who use these pronouns and how to use them correctly. So this is going to be the end of the first video regarding the Transgender Education Workshop. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you will continue into the next videos. But that is it for this one. Thank you so much.